So in the vast, imaginative landscape of Dungeons and Dragons, where heroes rise and dragons fall, what truly holds the greatest power? Is it the warrior's blade, the wizard's arcane words, or maybe something else entirely?
That is a compelling question. Right out of the gate. Makes you think about the core of the game, really. Interestingly, just the other night, I was running a session that kind of highlighted a different kind of power in D&D.
Oh, yeah. Tell us about it.
Well, my players were exploring this long-lost temple. I'd seeded it with clues about a forgotten civilization, right?
Okay.
And they spent a good chunk of the session being really cautious, navigating traps, deciphering murals, properly engaging with the environment I'd set up.
Right, getting immersed.
Exactly. The pivotal moment, though, came when they finally reached the central chamber. Now, in my initial planning, this was just meant to house, a specific monster encounter, pretty standard.
Okay.
But as they stepped into the space, I was kind of struck by a different idea, something that tied more into the nature of this lost civilization, their whole reverence for the stars.
Hmm.
So, sort of on the fly, I described the chamber ceiling opening up, revealing the night sky, and constellations shifting to form this celestial puzzle blocking their path.
Wow, okay. Different direction.
Totally. And the players who'd been so focused on combat and, typical dungeon delving were completely taken aback. They had to shift gears, collaborate in a totally new way, rely on their knowledge skills to figure out this cosmic riddle.
So it wasn't just about hitting things.
Not at all. It wasn't about hitting harder or casting a more potent spell. It was purely about understanding the world I had built and finding a solution within its unique logic. The sheer ability to pivot the entire encounter based on the established lore and how the players were interacting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that felt like a significant power in that moment.
Okay, so let's really dig into this then, this idea of building the world itself, because the piece of source material we're looking at, 7 compelling reasons, being the DM in Dungeons and Dragons is the best role at the table. It really emphasizes this.
Yeah.
This architectural aspect of being the DM. You're crafting the whole framework, not just characters or challenges.
Exactly right. When you're a player, your perspective is understandably focused on your character, their abilities, goals, what's happening right in front of them. But the dungeon master, they're operating on this much broader canvas. They're essentially the architect of reality for the game.
And that means thinking about everything.
Everything. From the big picture stuff, the world's history, the political webs, down to the really small, localized details, like the specific customs of some remote village or unique plants and animals in one region, or even just the legends people whisper about in taverns.
Yeah, the sheer scope of what a DM can create is pretty staggering when you list it out. You're talking about crafting entire pantheons, right? Gods with their own domains, their own squabbles, developing magical economies where, like our source mentions, maybe mermaid pearls are super valuable, populating the world with forgotten ruins, ancient curses, secret societies.
Political intrigue, wild magic storms, regional customs, lost languages, unique beasts, custom artifacts.
Yeah.
Even the weather, the flora, the fauna, ancient history. It's like having this infinite design space, really.
And what becomes really compelling, I imagine, is seeing how these things you've created then come alive through what the players do.
That's the magic, yeah. The DM sets the stage, fills it with interesting details, and then watches how the players choose to interact. You might plant some seemingly minor detail, maybe a weird type of gemstone only found in one specific mine, and then suddenly your players are investigating it, finding some hidden magic, and weaving it into their big plans.
Yeah.
That back and forth between the DM's creation and the player's exploration and, messing with those elements, that's a uniquely rewarding part of the job.
Okay, so the source material then moves on to another crucial bit of DMing, controlling the game's pace and flow. This really resonates because as a player, you often feel like you're just along for the ride rhythm-wise. But the DM, they're the conductor, right? They decide when things speed up or slow down.
That's a great way to put it, the conductor. The DM has a whole toolkit for managing the game's rhythm. Think about the classic cliffhanger ending to a session. Leaves players hanging, eager for next time.
Oh yeah, definitely felt that one.
Or conversely, if a journey between two places isn't that important narratively, the DM can just say, okay, you travel for 3 days, and montage it, skipping potentially boring bits. They can also choose to skip less relevant fights or, importantly, linger on moments of high tension or real emotional weight, letting players really soak those in.
And it's not just about being efficient with time, is it? It's shaping the emotional journey of the session.
Absolutely. A DM might cut away to show the villains plotting, building suspense, hinting at future trouble. They can condense a long fight with good narration and focusing on key roles to keep the energy up. Even something simple, like a dramatic pause before a big reveal, that can massively amplify the impact.
Right, that silence can be powerful.
Precisely. The goal isn't just to rush or drag things out randomly. It's about keeping players engaged, keeping the excitement levels up.
Mhm.
A skilled DM is always kind of reading the room, noticing when people are zoning out or when they're super invested in a scene.
And adjusting based on that.
Exactly. They adjust the pacing, hitting the brakes for drama, or the accelerator to push the story forward when needed.
Okay, the next point highlighted in our source. This is something I've always found fascinating as a player. The DM gets to embody all the other characters. They've got this huge collection of masks, basically.
It really is remarkable, isn't it? In one moment, you might be playing a gruff town guard giving out some info, and the next, you're this flamboyant rogue trying to scam the party. Then maybe you switch to the wise old mentor offering cryptic advice.
Yeah, so many different hats.
Every NPC, whether they're super important to the plot or just some random person in a market, the DM has to inhabit them, give them a voice, mannerisms, a personality.
And the variety is huge.
Hmm.
You've got your classic quest givers, obviously.
Yeah.
The big bad villains, helpful guides, even like the comic relief characters who just pop up to lighten the mood.
Right. And as a DM, you're not just reading lines, you're improvising a lot of the time, often totally on the spot. Maybe you try out an accent, give them a physical tick. Sometimes unexpected relationships develop between NPCs and the players just through that improv.
That improvisational acting side seems key.
Oh, totally. Players will always do unexpected things, leading to interactions you just couldn't plan for. A DM has to be ready to react authentically as these different characters, staying true to who they are while responding to whatever the players throw at them. It's a much, much broader scope of role-playing compared to a player focusing on their one character.
Which kind of leads naturally into this idea of setting up narrative payoff. Our source talks about this as a really unique, satisfying part of being a DM, planting seeds, sometimes way in advance, and watching them bloom later on.
Exactly. Think about those subtle hints dropped early on about some ancient prophecy, or introducing a character who seems totally insignificant, but then sessions later they turn out to be crucial. The DM holds all these narrative threads and gets to weave them together over the long haul.
And when it clicks for the players.
Yeah. When the players finally connect those dots, or when some long-forgotten detail suddenly becomes super important, it creates this powerful aha moment, this sense of revelation.
And the examples of these payoffs are often the moments people remember most, right? The prophecy finally unfolding, the shocking reveal that a trusted friend was the villain all along.
Or maybe bringing back that minor NPC as a major threat, weaving a player's specific backstory right into the main plot. These things get genuine reactions around the table. Surprise, excitement. It's almost like, as the source says, being a stage magician. You're carefully setting up the trick to get that reaction.
That feeling of orchestrating it must be pretty satisfying.
It really is. It's not about forcing the story, but about building a narrative where player choices have real, lasting consequences, and those consequences can lead to these unexpected, memorable reveals that just make the whole experience richer.
Okay, another vital thing our source highlights is the DM's role in shaping the game to fit the specific people at their table. Because every group is different, right? Different tastes, different styles.
Yeah, and the DM is in the best spot to adapt the game for that group. This is where the DM really acts as a facilitator, trying to make sure everyone's having fun, that the group dynamic is positive.
Reading the room, basically.
Constantly reading the room, gauging what parts of the game are landing well, what parts maybe aren't clicking. This might mean adjusting encounter difficulty on the fly, maybe tweaking some rules the group doesn't love, or even shifting the overall tone of the campaign if that's what seems needed.
And there's so many ways to adapt, thinking about it.
Oh, absolutely. You can lean into player-driven plot lines if the group gets really passionate about pursuing something specific. You can tailor rewards. Maybe one player really wants that magic sword, another just wants juicy lore. You can work harder to weave in character backstories, make it feel more personal for them.
So it's about being flexible.
Hugely flexible. The goal is just creating the most enjoyable, engaging experience for this group of people. The DM can smooth out rough patches, steer away from stuff that's falling flat, and really amplify the things that are clearly sparking joy and excitement. That responsiveness is just key for a good, long-running campaign.
Our source then gets into the idea that DMing is this incredibly rich creative outlet. It pulls on a whole bunch of different skills, sometimes all in one session.
It really does. I mean, think about what a DM might do in just one evening. World building, maybe drawing a map, designing a puzzle, trying to balance a tricky combat encounter, and then role-playing half a dozen different characters. It's this blend of creative and analytical thinking.
And it's interesting how those game-specific tasks actually build real-world skills, too.
Yeah, absolutely. Like drawing a map, that taps into visual design, spatial thinking, doing NPC voices, that's basically acting, public speaking practice. Making a clever puzzle, that's problem solving. Even figuring out if a fight is fair involves a bit of game theory, maybe some probability.
It's kind of cool how play translates like that.
And what's really rewarding, I think, is seeing how doing this stuff in a game can actually build confidence and maybe resilience that applies outside the game, too. You're constantly trying things, seeing what works, refining your skills in this, relatively low-stakes creative sandbox.
That makes sense. And finally, maybe the most profound point, the source emphasizes the unique reward of just witnessing your players thrive.
Right.
As the DM, you get this front row seat to all their triumphs, their failures, those unforgettable moments that just happen.
There's this really deep satisfaction in facilitating those moments for other people. When you see a player's face light up because they finally solved that intricate riddle you made, or when the whole table just erupts in cheers after barely winning a super tough fight, that's a reward that's really specific to the DM role.
You're not just playing, you're enabling those experiences.
Exactly. You're creating the space for these shared memories to happen.
And those magical moments, they're what make D&D stick with you, aren't they? That critical hit that saved the day, the shy player finally stepping up with a brilliant idea, a really genuine emotional beat in role-playing.
Or even just an inside joke that starts in-game and becomes this legend for the group years later. As a DM, you're not just telling a story, you're helping to weave their story, creating these lasting memories for your friends.
That shared experience seems key.
Totally. You sort of become the guardian of these shared moments, the architect behind all the laughter and tension and bonding, that feeling of collective storytelling, the emotional richness. It's probably why so many people find being a DM so deeply fulfilling despite the work involved.
So just to wrap up our deep dive here, we've touched on how being a Dungeon Master gives you this unique chance to build worlds, control the game's flow, become this huge cast of characters, set up those really satisfying narrative payoffs, tailor the game for your players, exercise a ton of creativity, and maybe most importantly, just watch your players have these amazing moments within the stories you help create.
And going back to that first question, well, it certainly seems like while the fighter's sword and the wizard's spells are powerful in the game, maybe the greatest power in D&D really does lie with the DM. The storyteller, the world builder, the one weaving the magic for everyone else.
Yeah, that feels about right. A big thank you, by the way, to LitRPG Reads and Paul Bello-Finefellow for the article that sparked this whole conversation.
Absolutely. Great stuff.
So now, we want to turn it over to you listening. What do you think? Does the power of the DM really surpass the power of the player? We'd love to hear your opinions, your own experiences. Share them in the comments below.